Hi. In this section, I'll discuss a little bit about what you should be worrying if you are a student who wish to learn GitHub. And we have conducted so many webinars and so many lectures and workshops on GitHub, GitHub desktop, etc. And we have received so many questions from students who are yet to find a job, who are yet to be in the workforce, and they have some different set of questions compared to people from the industry. So I have enlisted a few questions here and I'm going to answer it one by one so that if you are a student who is listening to this, you will have a better idea. So one of the first things is, what should I learn? Whether I should learn GitHub or GitHub desktop. So if you are really pressed on time, you have only time to learn one of these and you have only time to learn, time to use one of this. Just go with GitHub desktop. That is my advice because it requires very little coding knowledge. It has a very nice graphical user interface and it's very easy to learn. So just go with GitHub desktop if you are a person who would like to use GitHub for some of your projects, but you don't necessarily want to be an expert at this. So that is about the first question. And the common use cases for GitHub, like most of the students that I have seen who were my batchmates or classmates when I was doing my undergrad or PhD, they were all using GitHub for some kind of coding related projects, not for non-coding projects. But I have also seen very few, in very few rare cases, people using GitHub to collaborate just as a file sharing platform, not for coding, but for sharing any kind of files. So if you are a student, I don't assume that you need to use GitHub for sharing files. For that, you have Dropbox or Google Drive or even WhatsApp. I don't think you need to use GitHub at all. But if you are involved in some kind of coding related projects, definitely go with GitHub. So use GitHub in conjunction with GitHub desktop. So that is my response for the first two questions listed here. And it is actually definitely going to reduce your workload, but you may not realize it in 1 to 2 weeks. If initially you are starting to use GitHub, you will feel like your workload has increased. Actually, I definitely felt it while initially starting to use GitHub because I was trying to use it through terminal commands. And even when I started using GitHub desktop, initially I felt like my workload is increasing because I was more focused on getting the software itself to work, like getting the GitHub desktop itself to work, figuring out how to do commits, figuring out how to create pull requests, or how to fetch the latest changes from the GitHub cloud into my computer. So all of these things were initially a hassle, but it hardly took me 7 to 10 days or something like that to make it very to feel very comfortable about using GitHub. And at that point, my workload actually started reducing because until then, I had so many different versions of files that even for single person, like I was the only person working on some projects, even for those projects, I was very disorganized. And if I wanted to go back to a previous version that I had, it was impossible to track what is where. And if you look at my downloads folder right now, it has so many different files which were useful at one point, but now because it's so disorganized, it's as good as junk. So, but all the things that I have on my GitHub right now, it's very well organized. I can go back to it at any point of time, and I can use it. So this is exactly how it's going to reduce your workload. So this effect will come after maybe you start using GitHub for a few months, not for a few days. Will it help single person non-collaborative projects? It definitely helped me, but not again immediately. Some of the very first coding project that I ever did as an undergraduate student, of course, GitHub was not at all needed. It was an overkill. In fact, I wondered why some of my classmates were even using GitHub. Like I thought they were some, highly intelligent people, like who were using a complex tool that I was not aware of. But later, as the number of projects increased, as the level of clutter in my computer increased, I realized the importance of GitHub even for single person non-collaborative projects. And if you really don't code, if you never code, I don't think you need to use GitHub as a student. I think you can stay away from GitHub. It's fine. So if you need more info, all you need to do is refer back to this table. I have listed 8 type of projects. Individual projects are the first 4. The last 4 are group projects. And there are simple projects, complex projects, with coding, without coding. And here I have listed. So I generally recommend usage of GitHub for all types of group projects If it's a complex no coding group project, GitHub is still recommended. But if coding is involved, whether it's a simple or complex project, I highly recommend GitHub. If it's an individual project, as long as coding is involved, whether the project is simple or complex, you can use GitHub. So this is my recommendation. Now, coming back to the list of questions, if you're working with a couple of your friends on class projects, you can start to use GitHub. And the reason is not because this will help your workload reduction or anything, but the reason is that way you can start populating your GitHub profile. Otherwise, your GitHub profile will look completely empty, something like this. If you have made only like 4 contributions throughout the year, then it shows that some people actually have this completely empty. By the way, I have seen such GitHub profiles also. And if they claim that they do coding, they are really good at coding, I will not believe them, because if you are a serious coder, you will definitely automatically have a GitHub profile. Even if you are working in a company, even if you are working in private repositories from your company's, let's say, from a GitHub account that you created using your company's email, even on your personal Gmail connected GitHub account, you will definitely have some kind of GitHub contribution. So if I see something like this on your GitHub profile, I'll definitely probably assume that you are not an experienced coder. You may or may not know coding. That is another thing. So what you can do is, right from the moment when you start working on class projects or course projects or even your own thesis, you can start using GitHub. You can put your project code base in GitHub. You can start making contributions. That way, at least the GitHub will start getting populated. So when someone is suddenly Googling you, when someone is stumbling over your GitHub profile, they will see that, okay, you do coding on a daily basis. Otherwise, how do you even show someone that you do coding on a daily basis? Your daily commits is a proof for that. Then if you have placement coming up and if you wish to have a GitHub profile, I don't think you will be able to optimize GitHub profile by starting it from scratch on a short basis. If you have placement coming up, I of course recommend you to create a GitHub profile and put some of your important projects there, so that at least you can hyperlink your GitHub profile in your resume. But I don't think optimizing the GitHub profile by kind of distributing the contributions over the past year is possible. But at least having something is better than not having anything. So if you have placement coming up, if you are planning to sit for interviews, software related or coding related, do create a GitHub profile and do create contributions into the GitHub profile. The other thing what you can do is, if you don't have any GitHub repositories, the bare minimum thing you can do is you can create a GitHub pages website. So I can show you one GitHub pages profile. So this is from Dr. Raj, his GitHub pages website. So this was created using GitHub itself. So you can host these websites, which will have a domain like .github.io. You can host website like this. So this is the bare minimum you can do. If you don't have GitHub repositories, at least show something like this. And if you are sitting for placements or interviews, I don't think anyone will directly ask you questions regarding the usage of GitHub. I doubt people really care about that. So you don't have to prepare to answer questions related to GitHub, but of course, while doing the job, you will naturally end up learning these things: how to commit, how to collaborate in projects, how to not mess up a main branch of a repository. All these things you will learn. But at least be prepared. If someone asks you, oh, have you worked on GitHub? At least be prepared to answer, yes, I have worked by using GitHub on these things. So at the bare minimum, be prepared to answer those questions. So this is overall, as a student, what you can do to start using GitHub, start populating it, etc. And I just wanted to revisit this image that I was showing, right? So GitHub is actually tracking contributions in this way. Someone who is visiting your profile, they can definitely see what you have been doing in terms of coding. And if you claim that you are a coder, if you want to apply for SWE, software engineering roles, and if your GitHub profile looks like this, I would say it's a red flag. So as a student, these are the things that you can focus on a short-term basis. On a long-term basis, just make GitHub part of your life. That's the only thing that you need to do. So I hope this brings some clarity to you as a student. And if you don't know exactly what to do as an individual, to boost your GitHub profile, just ask your colleagues to kind of add you as a collaborator in their courses. That way, you can still start making some contributions, not on a full scale project, but at least on some features that your colleague is working on. It could be like a web development project for your college club activity, like a club. If you have a web dev club in your college, you can be part of it. You can collaborate on there. They will, of course, have a GitHub repository. You can collaborate on that. And there are many such things that you can do. So I hope you will start doing these things if you are a student who is in the beginning stages of your coding journey, right? So please start doing this and you will feel the benefit of using GitHub ultimately.